Welcome everybody, and I'm so excited for this game analysis. So let me tell you, Magnus Carlsen, the world champion, played in round number 3 against Peter Svidler, Biel Chess Festival, Accentus Biel Grandmaster Tournament 2018, and I want to get right to it. And why is that? Well, they played my favorite opening, which is the Najdorf, and when I first saw the game, I couldn't believe my eyes because, first of all, well, Svidler is not known to be a Najdorf player. He said in the press conference he played it a long time ago, and the reason he stopped was because of exactly what Carlsen played today. Usually Svidler plays the Lopez variation, or maybe sometimes the Taimanov. And secondly, Carlsen also doesn't play the open Sicilian that much, and especially not this particular line. Here we have reached the Najdorf. Bishop to g5, this is also my favorite move. It's the sharpest of them all against the Najdorf, and just can lead to crazy games, and this is what we're going to see in this one as well. So bishop g5 was the move that Svidler said was the reason he stopped playing the Najdorf. And he replies with knight bd7. Now queen e2, here white has several choices, also bishop c4 and f4 exist, but queen e2 is quite a fashionable move. White prepares the queenside castle, and he wants to support e5 push later on. Now h6, bishop h4, once again black has many ways to play this position, but Svidler goes for what is considered to be the main line these days, with h6 followed by g6 to play a fianchetto with the bishop to g7, and now f4. And here Svidler said in press conference Carlsen was playing too fast, so he wanted to get him out of book, and he didn't play the main move here, which is e5. He played instead queen to c7. Now castle, bishop to g7, and here Carlsen was on his own and he fought for quite a while, and he played the aggressive move g4. There are also other moves available, maybe to play more quietly, king b1, knight f3. g4, he's making his intentions clear. He wants to play g5 maybe, and he wants to increase his space advantage on the king side. Now e5, finally, there it is. And already here there's some very interesting variations. Now Carlsen took, in the press conference, Svidler said he wasn't too sure about this move, knight db5, a common motive in the Najdorf, but it turns out black should be fine here, for example, with the queen a5. But I want to give you guys a curious line they showed in the press conference. Queen c6, rook takes c6, queen takes e4. This is what Svidler thought was working, but then Magnus just reveled off rook e6 check, vacating the square d6 for the knight, king f8, and now rook e8 check is very, very nice. If the knight takes, the queen is undefended. If the king takes, there's once again this fork. So I just want to show you guys this cute little line here. Back to game, e5 takes e5, knight takes e5, also pawn takes e5 was possible, but Svidler decided to change the character of the position completely. He has a very nice knight on e5, and especially in the pawn on g4 right away. On the other hand, his structure is not as perfect, and the pawn on d6 can be a target. Here Carlsen played h3, another move, which we'll see later on in the game, is knight f5, and this would have been possible. If g takes f5 opens up the g file for the rook, and it turns out that white will get sufficient compensation here for the piece he has given, because he has this play along the g file, and also black pieces are not getting out, and also there's often a possibility to take on f6 and make use of the d5 square. Important, the pawn here stopping bishop e6. So knight f5, very interesting move. Of course, black could also take with the bishop. Still, then this would also help the white pawn structure, give the bishop a way to come into a game. So knight f5, an interesting alternative to h3. Now bishop e6, queen to f2. Once again, another interesting move here, queen to d2, keeping an eye on this pawn. Actually, there's the threat now to take on e6 and take the pawn on d6, which is why black should go rook d8. Now king b1, often a useful move. And after castle, white could win a pawn with bishop takes f6 and queen takes h6, but maybe he rather wants to continue his attack, something like this, followed by h4, h5. And it seems that in many of these lines, white will be a little bit quicker with his attack against the black king. So also dangerous stuff for black. It also stayed dangerous in the game after queen f2, attacking the knight on f6, knight d7. And now we see another common motive in the Sicilian. In the Najdorf, usually you see it with a pawn on b5, but Carlsen plays bishop b5, even without a pawn there, just brings the bishop to b5. Beautiful move. The bishop cannot be taken. If the bishop is taken, then there will be a swift end to Black's dreams here. The mate is coming on d6. Nice mate here. Bishop is covering this one. Knight is giving check, and the queen is covering the f-file. So, after bishop b5, Svidler also said, well, I just castle, what happens? But Carlsen had something prepared. He took on d7, queen takes d7, and now he continued with knight f5. It was time to continue the attack, even though the king has left the center. Still a dangerous move with the idea, if Black takes, which he did, then to open up the g-file against the king, and it can get quite dangerous. Here, Svidler made the right choice. He played king h7, getting out of the g-file already. If bishop c4, saving the bishop, this is just too slow. f6, now bishop h8, queen f4, coming after this pawn. Knight g6, queen takes h6. This was also a line they discussed in the press conference. Here, in the conference, rook hg1 was suggested, but rook dg1 is more precise because in this line, we'll see in a moment, here it's important that the h4 pawn is still protected by the rook. So this is why you want to move the d rook to the g-file and not have, and still have the rook on h1 protecting the pawn, and h5 coming. White is winning back the piece and continuing his attack. Great position for him. So Svidler played king h7, getting off the g-file, ready to give back the piece, but Carlsen didn't take it. He said, I have time, let me bring in my rook to g1. Now, of course, the move Svidler wanted to play was rook g8, but he noticed that then white can still take on g7 simply. If rook takes g7, bishop f6 is very strong with a double attack on knight and rook. And if king takes g7, check this out. Still bishop f6 check. Beautiful stuff. King takes f6, f takes e6 check, attacking the queen, attacking the king. King has to take, but now the king is stranded in the middle of the board with queen f5 or queen f6 threatened, and it's all over for Black. Beautiful lines here. Svidler saw all of that and he wisely played bishop back to h8. And here the madness could have begun, but it didn't. Carlsen was thinking for a long time on this move, bishop to g5, and it would have been a fantastic move indeed. Doesn't lead to a white win, but it gives great chance. He ended up playing bishop g3, but let's dive in. Let's see what happens here. Bishop to g5, offering another piece to get the white-black king open. Rook takes, now there's a threat of queen h4 mate. Strong threat, so Black pretty much has to go knight g6. And here there are two options. First, Carlsen looked at this move. Takes, queen h4 check, king g7, rook dg1. And he noticed, rightly so, that rook f6 loses, protecting the pawn, but now rook h5, the threat of rook h7 is very strong and Black cannot parry it. Rook f1 check, last try to distract the rook. Then Black could take, but now white just puts the knight in between or plays king d2, both work, and rook h7 check will end the game here. But in this position, Carlsen saw also queen f7, and here there's no way to win. Queen h5, queen f4 check. This was all still seen by both players, or at least by Carlsen. And he noticed here the king runs away, and turns out it will lead to a draw here after rook takes g6, king e7 takes, and now there is a perpetual. The king cannot go to the 8th rank because the rook would be hanging, so the king has to go back and forth here. It's a draw. So this is one very interesting line, but it gets even more interesting if white doesn't take on g6 right away and plays rook dg1, and this would have been a great practical chance. Because the best move here for Black, and the only one to keep equality, is rook ac8. And that's just a move you would not expect a human to play, because you're just ignoring completely what's going on the king side, bring another piece into the game and argue, well, show me what you got, I can defend. So that's really an inhuman move to play. They also didn't discuss this move during the press conference. They didn't even discuss the second best move, which is king g8, also a tough move to play when white still keeps an advantage here of the h4 and he can bring another pawn into attack. Tough position to play. Let's look at some other moves and then we'll also see rook ac8. A move they looked at was bishop g7, but now after rook h5, check, king g8, f6, the white attack is too strong. For example, queen d8, takes, king takes, queen d4 check, f6, and here either knight e2 with the idea knight f4, or also knight d5, takes, and white has all his pieces into the game. Black will not be able to defend this position. There's even the threat of rook takes g6 in the air right now. So how does black defend? Rook a c8, takes, queen h4 check, and simply king g8 here, and simply going to f7. It's unbelievable, but this holds for black, and he survives. White has many ways to play here, but no way to an advantage. For example, queen h6, takes, knight d5, king d7, knight b6, and this is a perpetual. The king has to go back and forth, a draw. So bishop g5, great practical chance, but very tough to calculate all of this, of course. Carlsen ended up playing bishop g3, bringing the bishop to this diagonal in a different way, but he's losing some time doing that. Rook to a8, a good move here by Svidler, bringing the rook into play and also having this idea to sacrifice the exchange on c3. Bishop f4 still. Here rook takes c3 really wouldn't do that much, and Svidler once again plays a good move, queen e7, now forcing Magnus to take on e6 pretty much, otherwise the bishop might finally retreat. Takes. Now white has regained the piece, the material is equal, but black still has the strong knight on e5 and the bishop on h8, which is also a good piece. On the other hand, his king is still quite open. And here, after rook g8, Carlsen went back to f2. And what happened here is that the players repeated moves and a draw was agreed. Objectively, maybe black could play on, but even then it would be quite unclear and no clear advantage for black in any case. Queen f6 would have been a way to continue the game. Rook gf1, rook cf8, but it remains pretty unclear with all three results possible. Because like I said, black has his advantages, but also the king being a problem in this position. So what an exciting game here by both players. It ended in a perpetual like this, but I think a kind of fine way to end this game with a draw right here. Both players gave it all, and Carlsen really went in with sacrifices left and right. But in the end, you have to give Svidler a lot of credit because he found some strong defensive moves and he was never lost in this game and managed to hold himself against the world champion and fought his way to a draw. This is how I like chess to be. You see how excited I was during the game analysis, and these are my kind of games. Najdorf, just loving it. I hope you guys loved it as well. This tournament is a lot of fun so far, just great games. You should also check out the other games, they have been great as well. So this is awesome. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to subscribe, leave a like, and then I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.